I spend a lot of time in the truck, and I listen to NPR a lot of times in the mornings, morning edition, stuff like that. And agree or not, a lot of times it's good information. 9 o'clock rolls around, and old Garrison Keillor comes on, and he tells you about the Writer's Almanac. He tells you what's going on that day. He tells you who was born and who died and who married who and who's going where with who, and if they ain't, why not. And he tells you all the stuff about riding that you need to go. Goes on for a few minutes. And then he always ends up with a poem. Now, usually it's a poem. You know, maybe somebody from that date or something like that. Well, they call it a poem, but I got news for you, neighbor. If it don't rhyme, it ain't a poem. I don't care what you call it. Hey, there's some great stories on there and some touching little things that you might put on there, but if it don't rhyme, it ain't a poem. You know, you can go back to history and you can find, "Listen, my children, and you shall hear of the midnight ride of Paul Revere. On the 18th of April in 75, hardly a man is now alive who remembers that famous day and year." He said to a friend, "If the British march into town tonight, hang a lantern aloft from the old Lord Church as a signal light. One if by land and two if by sea, and I on the opposite shore will be, ready to ride, spread the alarm to every Middlesex village and farm." But what I'm getting at is, if it don't rhyme, it ain't a poem. Now, we can be good poems or bad poems, and I think of one of the greatest poems of our day and age is old Shel Silverstein. It's not the cleanest kind of poem sometimes, and there's not some things you'd want to use as an illustration in church or behind the pulpit. But in a pad with no heat up on Sullivan Street, the last of the hipsters lay dying, wearing his shades so like no one could tell, like whether or not he was crying. All the junkies and loners and coffee shop owners were all gathered around his bed as he took one last puff of some imported stuff, and these were the last words he said. He said, "Send my sandals home to Mom, hang my t-shirt away, burn my guitar in Washington Square, 'cause I never learned how to play. Give my pad to some needy lad and tell him the rent is all paid. Get everyone high on the moment I die and bury me in my shades, chorus. Bury me in my shades, boys. Bury me in my shades." Now that's poetry. I mean, that's poetry 'cause it rhymes. I mean, Shel Silverstein, I think he wrote Johnny Cash's famous "A Boy Named Sue," and "Freaking at the Freakers Ball." Well, there's gonna be a Freakers Ball tonight at the Freakers Hall, and you know you're invited, one and all. Come on, babies, grease your lips, grab your hats, swing your hips, and don't forget to bring your whips. We're going to the Freakers Ball. Blow your whistle, bang a gong, roll up something. Hey, Sarah Cynthia Sylvia Stout. Oh, Sarah Cynthia Sylvia Stout would not take the garbage out. She'd scrub the dishes and wash the pans, cook the yams and spice the hams, and lo, her parents would scream and shout. She simply would not take the garbage out. Now I'm going to stop there. But if it don't rhyme, it ain't a poem. Amen.